So now, please welcome the official, non-official, non-sponsor of the Savannah Bananas, but a big fan. Please welcome John Fletcher.
Well, thank you, my friend Jesse Cole, and welcome to 15 on Fridays with Fletch. Our guest today is a published author and food innovator, which you can tell by the title of his book, Fork Fight. The whisks, risks, and conflicts, and he lifts the curtain behind the restaurant industry to share insider stories. Mark Brezinski is a co-founder and creator of restaurant concepts that have won Hot Concept and Concepts of Tomorrow awards, and he was named one of Nation's Restaurant News' most influential restaurant CEOs. The magazine named him the father of Dallas fast casual food scene, and we've all dined at many of his success stories, from Pei Wei and 10 Star to Velvet Taco and Eatzi's, and also many more. So let's talk right now with the fork fighter himself, Mark Brezinski. Mark, I'm grateful that our mutual friend Larry Levine was able to connect us. I know you're one busy guy. So
yeah,
tell us. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, Larry and I have known each other since our Brinker days together, and I've just kept a really good friendship with him. So I'm glad he introduced us as well.
You bet. Well, so tell me, I understand that you taught yourself food skills in the kitchen while your parents worked late in the family pharmacy. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm back in the day when women really didn't work. My mother worked. She was a pharmacist. My mother and father owned pharmacies. So we had 5 children. I was the youngest of the 5. I usually got the jobs nobody else wanted to do. And one of those was cooking or preparing lunches for everybody to take to school. So I just learned, kind of on the job. I had watched my mother, watched my father love to be in the kitchen. And as one thing led to another, I opened a refrigerator door and started learning how to put things together for everybody. Everything from pastas to sandwiches to even putting roasts in the oven when I was about 11, 12 years old. They trusted me. I guess we didn't have gas. I guess we had electric back then. So it was a little bit easier to learn. But that's where I really got started, John.
Well, you've come a long way from that home kitchen to being named one of the top food influencers in America. So tell us about a few of your milestones.
Yeah, I think I've always been interested in the restaurant business. I've always worked in restaurants. My first job ever was flipping burgers, but really I never got totally serious about it until I went to work with Brinker International. And my boss there was probably the most influential person in my career. His name was Rick Federico. Rick was just a stellar executive, went on to be the CEO, chairman of the board of P.F. Chang's China Bistro. But Rick called me into his office one day and said, if you really want to be serious about this business, you need to start getting more serious. Because I was kind of the guy who everybody, wanted to go out with and drink and, eat and travel. And so I never really took it seriously because it came so naturally to me. But Rick really convinced me to make a career of it, not just a job. And from the moment that he encouraged me to have a business coach, right on through today, I viewed my career and my work completely differently than I did when I first started out. So Rick would be the top influence. I would say Norman Brinker certainly was an example that we all tried to follow at Brinker International. And so I've been blessed to be part of a group of people that really were pros. And I learned at their side, really, and just continue to do that and keep those lessons when I do the things that I do.
So tell me about, you're called the father of Dallas's fast casual food scene. What was your favorite aspect of each of your brands, say Velvet Taco?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's all about the food, right? I mean, the full service restaurant business, you have to layer in hosts, bartenders, waiters, busboys. There's a lot of layers. When I would go open macaroni grills around the country, we'd have to hire 150 to 200 people. We'd travel with 22 trainers. And I just got tired. I just said, this is just a lot of work to get to the food part. So I decided to focus on the food. And the way you do that is you cut out a lot of these other layers. You go straight from the food to the person. And that's called fast casual. And my first attempt at it was a thing called 10 Star here in Dallas, which worked wildly well. the partnership didn't work wildly well, but the concept worked wildly well. So I ended up selling that. And one day, Paul Fleming, the PF of PF Chang's, had happened into Tin Star, loved it, got in touch with Rick Federico, who was by then the chairman of the board and CEO of PF Chang's. And Rick said, "Yeah, I know Mark. We can have a talk with him." And sure enough, one thing led to another. I flew out to Phoenix from Dallas, met with Paul and Rick, and came home and sold Tin Star to one of my partners. And the rest, as they say, is history. I helped create Pei Wei with the PF Chang's guys. It took off like a rocket, and it kind of opened the door to many other opportunities, like like Velvet Taco, things like that.
Well, and we ate at Pei Wei just, I guess, is one of our regular go-to places. We'll get it to go and bring it back home, but it's such a simple concept. I love to be able to watch the guys actually preparing the food. You've got it where they're not hidden back and back, but you can actually watch the show.
A great point, because really one of the key elements to me of fast casual is that transparency. That hey, this is your food we're cooking. It's not coming pre-wrapped. It's not coming pre-cooked. We weren't Panda Express where everything sits in a steam table.
Right.
We felt as though part of the lure of going out to eat, people go out to eat for five reasons, right? Value, kind of entertainment or experience, convenience, quality of food, and hospitality. In a fast casual, you try to accommodate all of those. In full service, you can get away with a couple of them. But when you do fast casual, you have to provide an experience. There has to be some form of experiential element. And exhibition cooking with woks was definitely the part that everybody loved. Kids would walk by and their eyes would go wide and watch the flames and the smoke. So no doubt about it, we were really tuned into the fact that we were providing an experience as well as great quality cooked to order foods.
Well, plus you get the aroma. I mean, you are engaged with. I mean, you hear the sizzle. The fire goes up, and I mean, it's just awesome. It's just fun to go to Pei Wei. So, congratulations on that. Well, tell us a little bit more about the Velvet Taco. What made Velvet Taco different from other taco places?
Another good question, because we studied, I did this with the front burner guys, the people that own Whiskey Cake, Mexican Sugar, the Ranch at Las Colinas. That's the group behind Velvet Taco originally. It's since been sold a couple times, but the original team that really studied the taco market. And we just felt like there was enough taco joints that did traditional, Mexico City type tacos. We felt as though there was an opportunity to bring great foods simply using the tortilla as an envelope for great foods. You can call that a taco. We got dinged pretty bad from the traditionalists, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
but we were going to put anything that tasted good inside a tortilla. The number one taco at Velvet Taco to this day in 55 plus units is the chicken tikka taco. Chicken tikka was born out of another concept I had done years before called Bengal Coast, an Indian restaurant, which unfortunately didn't work. But I knew that the tikka flavor was something that people would like if we could serve it to them in an envelope in a fashion that they could enjoy handheld. So we put the chicken tikka elements in a taco, and it blasted off. It still is the number one, accounted for, my friend tells me, 14% of all sales at Velvet Taco last year was that one taco. So it was taking a risk and saying, we're willing to put anything inside a tortilla that tastes good, and we'll call it a taco. And the word Velvet Taco was meant to elicit a sense of luxuriousness, right? Velvet's a very luxurious, fabric. So subliminally, we're saying, we're going to give you luxurious tacos. They're going to cost a little bit more, and they're not going to be your grandmother's, your Mexican grandmother's tacos. They're going to be something different. And the market responded very well. We all kinds of tacos that you would never consider putting in a tortilla shell that worked extremely well.
Now, tell us about who Yum Brands is and about the new concept that you have going with Yum Brands.
Yeah, Yum has been a great client of mine for many years. I helped create Bond Shop and Super Chicks with them back in their early teens. And they're both still alive, by the way, and well, not owned by Yum, but they were bought out. Long story short, Yum came to me about a year and a half, 2 years ago and said, we want to do something with chicken tenders. We want to be able to compete with the Raising Cane's and Chick-fil-A's of the world that KFC really wasn't competing with. So we created a chicken tender concept called Saucy, with the principle being like Velvet Taco, the principle being anything good inside a taco, with Saucy, any sauce that can pair well with chicken. So we created 15, 16, 17 sauces that were everything from traditional ranch and barbecue with our own spin on it to things like a spicy mango chutney, a chimichurri ranch. We did a teriyaki sauce that was very popular. We went anywhere where good flavors existed. And the way I explain it, John, and I've explained it to people, is when I do something like that, I put a picture of the world in my head. And I just start picking out different areas around the world and try to balance the flavors. So something from China, something from Japan, something from Thailand, something from India, something from South America, so that's the way I go about it. And Saucy is the result of us opening up the envelope, so to speak, to all these flavors of the world through the sauces, not through the chicken, because the chicken is original recipe chicken tenders. The sauces is what made Saucy different.
Wow, that's so incredible. So tell us about what makes a concept unusual and memorable. You kind of alluded to the five rules, but tell us just a little bit more about that, amplified, if you would.
Yeah, that's the artist side of it, right? There's a science and an art to everything, right? There's an instinct and information. The artistry of that is just being a really good consumer and really paying attention to what's going on in the market and where you think a vulnerability exists. When I went around to all the chicken places, because we did a lot of research, just like we did for tacos, I just sensed that there was a vulnerability in the market for different flavors. Everybody was kind of riding the middle of the road, so to speak. Dave's hot chicken came with really spicy, but really wasn't flavorful spicy. It was just spicy. So I went and said the vulnerability exists in flavors. And so you kind of have to have an instinct to this. There are certain things you can't teach, right, John? I'm sure it's the same in your profession.
Right.
Certain things you learn and inherently become part of your fabric. To me, that instinct, that artistry that comes with food is just something you have to learn, and you have to be a good consumer to pay attention to.
You bet. Well, so tell us some thought about if somebody wants to start a restaurant, what are the considerations they need to be aware of before they go put their life savings in the wrong place?
Well, I've got what I call the 4 C's, right? And it's about innovation, but it's really about anything. Obviously everything starts with a thought bubble, and then it kind of layers out. I believe in order to do things, you have to first, the 4 C's: curiosity. You have to be curious. You have to go out and be curious about what people are doing. You have to study it. You just can't have an idea and say, hey, I make a great lasagna at home. I think I'll open an Italian restaurant. You have to be curious enough to know what other people are doing. So it starts with curiosity. Then you have to have the courage. The second C is courage. You gotta be able to, we call it man up. You call it whatever you want. There's other expressions I can't say on the podcast, but you've got to just say, okay, I'm going to do this, and that takes conviction. That's the third C. You have to have a conviction that your idea is going to stand up and that you're going to be able to, work your way through the naysayers and people say, oh, that'll never work, or, whatever it is, people will always try to drag you down a little bit. So you have to have the conviction that you're committed to your idea. And even though commitment's not one of the C's, it's kind of underlying all of them. The final is you have to have the capital. I mean, you can't do this without capital. And so the idea of being able to sell the idea to people that do have the capital, or committing your own capital, or getting with a company like Yum that has a budget to innovate and provide capital for new ideas, you have to have the ability to find those sources. or have this.
Well, Mark, you've been an incredible guest, and I hope to have you back again. Thank you for joining us to watch 15 on Fridays with Fletch. Mark, you're one of the great legends in the industry. I thank our friend Larry Levine for putting us together. And with your approval, we're going to have you back again sometime soon.
Love to do it, John. There's a lot about our business I love.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.